Mario Lemieux has been a widely celebrated player of the game and a mainstay for the Pittsburgh Penguins since 1984, when he was first drafted into the team. Playing with the Penguins for a total of 17 seasons, Lemieux saw great expansion of the team's fortunes, as it went from a squad that few fans thought about to one that was in contention for the Stanley Cup. Throughout his time in the team, the Penguins went on to win consecutive Stanley Cups in the years 1991 and 1992. Lemieux would become an icon for the Penguins franchise and become as closely associated with them almost as their now iconic logo. For Lemieux, the game that he played was just as important to him as the well-being of the Penguins. He would play with the team for a total of 17 seasons, an astonishing amount of time for a player to stick with any single franchise team. Not only would this be the defining mark of the career of Lemieux, but as we would later learn, Lemieux would go on to acquire a managerial role in the team as well, as he rescued it from bankruptcy. Lemieux would continue to play for the Pittsburgh Penguins till 2005, but unlike most other players, his association with the team would not be till the end of his term. Lemieux had bought the franchise in 1999, assuming ownership of it. This move made him attached to the team in a lifelong manner. It was unheard of for former players to become owners of their teams. This honor was usually reserved for wealthy billionaires and corporations who could shell out the amount of cash required for such a transaction. Several conflicting conditions, however, would lead to the perfect opportunity for Lemieux to rescue the Penguins from the bad management that they had been caught up in, and the one that had bankrupted them. This was an opportunity for Lemieux to build up the team in his image, and do so in a sustainable manner. Over the years, he did just that. One can disagree with the approach that Mario Lemieux has taken in regards to rerouting the Penguins, but no one can disagree that Lemieux is now central to the brand of the Penguins. Mario Lemieux is perhaps the single greatest influence on the development of the Penguins as a team, especially as owner of the team. He was influenced to develop the team as per his wishes, a role that could backfire on him as much as it could pay dividends. Despite his building up of the Penguins in such close association with the sport, Mario Lemieux has remained a controversial person who has remained involved with ice hockey. This can be primarily attributed to the fact that Mario Lemieux is a player of great controversy. Throughout his involvement in the sport, Mario Lemieux has been involved in several sexual harassment issues that have tainted not only his profile, but this time as owner and player for the Penguins. In the world of sports, having rowdy legends grace the screen is no new feat. Several famed athletes have been criticized for their behavior, and this is no new phenomenon. By all accounts, something that will continue to happen time and time again. However, the case of Mario Lemieux goes a lot further than that, and it has at times come to dominate the headlines about him. These are his cases involving sexual assault. While thankfully Mario Lemieux has never been accused of sexual assault or anything of the sort himself, he has oftentimes been accused of having a lax attitude to the matter, one that has allowed these kinds of behaviors to grow under his watch. From his time as just a mere player on the Penguins team to the owners of the franchise, Mario Lemieux has faced these accusations time and time again, as they simply do not seem to go away from him and his work. Perhaps the most famous case involving Lemieux has been his involvement with Dan Quinn, especially when Dan Quinn was found to have been alleged to have raped a woman in 1992. When this horrific incident was alleged to have happened, Lemieux was in the same room as Dan Quinn and did nothing to stop the assault from happening. One would think that one horrific incident of the sort would be enough for Mario Lemieux to try his best to stay out of the limelight and make sure that he did not go anywhere near such an incident ever again. But this unfortunately would not be the case, as this would only be one of the incidents regarding sexual assault that Mario Lemieux would find his name wrapped up in, and his association with those accused of sexual assault. This is not the only horrifying incident, including rape and sexual assault, that the name of Lemieux has been caught up in. In 2000, after Lemieux had assumed ownership of the team, the Penguins signed Billy Tibbets. Tibbets had been convinced of raping an unconscious 15-year-old girl when he was 17 years old. When confronted about this move, Lemieux's reply simply was, "I think that's a great story. That kid faced so much adversity, did his time, and came back after 3.5 years. To find himself in the NHL is a great accomplishment. Such a brazen attitude to a rape incident involving a minor would leave many aghast." The most recent such case involved sexual assault in Lemieux when the Penguins were sued by Erin Skald, the ex-wife of former Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, WBS Penguins, coach Jack Skald. Instead of the allegation being followed up internally, Skald was instead fired from the team, something that he alleged was illegal and one that he planned to pursue in court to the full extent of the law. Lemieux was born in Montreal, and given Canadian culture's inclination toward football, he began playing it at the age of 3 when he did not even have the proper equipment. Eventually, his father would build him and his brothers a rink on the lawn so that they could practice freely and would have ample room to play. Lemieux would begin his junior career with the Laval Voisin of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey Hockey League. He would be drafted in at the age of 15 and would go on to break league records, going on to have the most points in a season with 282 in 70 games. This record of his was achieved in the last game for him as well. When he needed to score 3 goals to break the record of Guy Lafleur, Lemieux would instead go on to score 6 goals and 6 assists in the game, cementing him as a record breaker for the game and ensuring his standing in the junior league. Lemieux would be drafted in with the Penguins in 1984, starting a career that would eventually result in 2 Stanley Cup victories in ownership of the team. Initially, there was no love lost between Lemieux and the Penguins, as the general manager of the Penguins, Eddie Johnston, could not successfully negotiate a contract with Lemieux. Eventually, Mario Lemieux would be signed on for a 2-year contract for $600,000 and a signing bound of $150,000. But before this, frosty negotiations would lead to some awkward moments. Lemieux would refuse to shake the hands of the general manager of the Penguins or wear the jersey of the team at the time of his signing. When Lemieux joined the Penguins, they were in dire shape. The team had just declared bankruptcy almost a decade earlier in 74 to 75 and was averaging half of the capacity of their fans. They had not made the playoffs since 1982 and had not had a winning season since 1979. Just from his debut, Mario Lemieux would make a stellar impact on the rink. In his first game against the Boston Bruins, he would steal the puck from the Hall of Fame defenseman Ray Bourque and later on go on to score a goal. It was in this season that he would be named the All-Star Game's MVP, being the first rookie to have ever done so. Lemieux scored 100 points during the season, a feat that he would achieve even while missing 7 games. Mario Lemieux would go on to win the Calder Trophy for his performance in the season, earning him widespread appeal not just from the fans and commentators of the sport, but from the league itself as well. Mario Lemieux proved that he wasn't just a one-hit wonder in the league, with him scoring 141 points in the next season. This was an amazing feat to achieve in one's second season, and it only showed how much Lemieux had grown as a player and the potential he had. Lemieux's finish was only second in the league behind Wayne Gretzky, who scored an NHL record 215 points.
You work hard, you can do a lot of things in life, and that's what I'm doing, working hard and try to be one of the best.
Lemieux's next moment in the sun would come during the summer of '87 when broke a tie with the Soviet team during a Canada Cup game and clinched victory for Canada. Throughout the entire Canada Cup, Lemieux would score 11 goals through the process of 9 games, showing that he had not lost his spark even when he was playing on the national stage against other countries. Lemieux would win further recognition throughout the late '80s, as in the '87-'88 season, he would be chosen as the league's MVP for his team, as well as the All-Star Game MVP award. The only player that could perhaps rival the performance of Lemieux on the field at the time would be Wayne Gretzky, a fact acknowledged by many players and fans alike. The Gretzky-Lemieux competition continued closely, with Gretzky leading in most records and Lemieux following closely behind. This was the case in the '88-'89 season, where Lemieux scored 199 points for the whole season, getting the closest to breaking the record of 200-plus points for the season. Lemieux would narrowly lose out on the Hart Trophy to Gretzky, but throughout this whole process, he would gain ample experience to be recognized as a star player, with Lemieux becoming the second player to score 70-plus goals in 2 seasons and the 4th player to score 50 goals in 50 games, as well as being the only player to 13 shorthanded goals in a single season.
You know, you're in awe, and I was in awe, and so probably was Mario in '87. We didn't play together the first 4 or 5 games.
It was due to the performance of Lemieux that the Penguins would make the playoffs for the year and make their mark on the rink. It would be in the '88 seasons that Lemieux would make plays that would be career-defining. In a game against the New Jersey Devils, Lemieux was responsible for scoring 8 points and being the only player in NHL history to score a goal in all 5 possible game situations: even strength, power play, shorthanded, penalty shot, and empty net. To date, he is the only player to have ever done so, and this record remains with him. In the '89-'90 season, Lemieux would make another mark where he scored at least 1 point in 46 consecutive games. This almost put him on par with Gretzky's 51-game streak, which was the NHL record. Lemieux's streak could have continued as well if he did not have to leave a game due to an injury that left him unable to play. Lemieux's chronic health would begin to show here, as his back injury would later develop into a herniated disc and subsequently an inflection. This would mean that he would need back surgery and would be missing 50 games as a result of this. Despite this, when he would get back on the rink, Lemieux would still suffer from significant back pain, but he would still score 16 goals and 28 assists in the playoff, leading the Penguins over the North Stars for their first Stanley Cup.
Certainly, I was very nervous when I found out that I had Hodgkin's disease.
Mario Lemieux would continue to play the game, but he would never hit the highs of his previous games, largely as a result of his chronic health that would force to retire from games and not play full seasons time after time again. Despite this, his devotion to the Penguins would not decrease by any amount, as would be a well-respected and crucial part of the team no matter what role he took up. Lemieux would actually be crucial to rescuing the team from bankruptcy, as the overspending of the Penguins would once again land them in a trap that they had only so narrowly escaped from a few years ago. The financial affairs of the Penguins had gotten so bad to the point that they could not afford to pay their players their salaries and had to defer them. This meant that being the highest paid player on the roster of the Penguins, Lemieux was owed the biggest amount and hence stood as the biggest liability in the accounts of the Penguins. For Lemieux, this was a blessing in disguise as he proposed a swap to the ownership of the Penguins, where the amount owed to him by the Penguins would be converted into equity in the franchise. Once approved by bankruptcy courts, this would effectively turn Lemieux into the biggest shareholder in the franchise, effectively making him owner in it. Using his new ownership of the team, Lemieux would turn the team around, going on first to pay back the salaries they owed to their players, and over time having the team turn a profit. To many, the efforts of Lemieux can solely be credited with rescuing the team. Despite his behaviors around the sexual assault cases, caused a discord about the behavior that Lemieux has fostered amongst his team, and how well it bodes for the future of the team.